Hello, and welcome to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. I'm Ryan Purvis, your host, supported by our producer Heather Bicknell. In this series, you'll hear stories and opinions from experts in the field, stories from the front lines, the problems they face and how they solved them, the areas they focused on from technology, people and processes, to the approaches they took that will help you to get to the grips with the digital workspace inner workings.
Well, how about yourself?
Yeah, very good, thanks. I'm back in my office finally. It's taken me a good 3 weeks to clean it up to the point that I can actually use it again.
Nice. Was it just full of storage, or what did you have to do?
Oh, it was just disorganized. My wife needs to have a place to work as well, so I had to clean up the one desk. My standing desk was put together based on how I used to work. So I'm now reorganizing it to how I do work now. So it's still messy, but at least I can put machines on the desktop. My challenge, and I was trying to solve this problem, I think I told you about this, my Mac, I've got a new Mac now, which I hoped would solve my problem with dual screens, has not solved my problem. So I was trying to sort my desk out so that I could have my Mac with one extra screen, and then I've picked up a Windows machine as well. So I'm using the other screen for that machine. So that's what I've done. I've turned it into a multi-purpose workbench desk on my standing desk. But it took me a bit of time to sort the cables out and make them neat and tidy and all that sort of stuff. So
maybe you need one of those like massive screens. It's like the size of two screens, so it just goes across.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that's exactly what I've been thinking about. But I'd have to then replace the two arms that I've got. And I'm thinking this way is better because at the moment what I'm doing is I've got work that I do on my Mac. There's a bit of development work that I'm doing on the Windows device. So I'm using one big screen for each one. So it's a bit more logical in that sense. I almost turn to the left and it's Mac, and I turn to the right and I've got Windows in a row. That's how I'm doing it. So we'll see. I'll test it out this week and see if that actually works from a productivity point of view.
Yeah, let me know that it's funny to be using them side by side like that. Good comparison.
Yeah.
I made the radical decision last night to delete my Snapchat.
Oh.
Radical. I probably hadn't used it in a year, at least, but just cleaning up.
But what prompted you to go through and check for it?
Yeah, so actually getting new notifications for it. So I had all my notifications turned off, so it wasn't really bothering me. But then I started getting emails, and I don't know if there's like a rise of spam bots, like trying to follow people on the platform, because I talked to someone else and they were also getting new Snapchat emails. So I don't know if it's the service or whatever. So I'm getting new notifications, or if it's just pure spam. But either way, I was like, I don't need this in my life anymore. Everyone has pretty much, I think people do still send Snapchats. And, you know, for my use case, it was mostly people sending snaps of their kids. So I always felt like I had to go on and watch all the videos of the kids, which was fun, but it's all spread out across all the platforms. So spending like 5 minutes a day just to check all the videos on Snapchat was, I just stopped doing it after a while. So there we go.
It's a platform I never used. So I don't even have a frame of reference to comment other than I had the same experience with Facebook after all of a sudden they started emailing me notifications of people interacting with my page or whatever. I had to go and turn that off again. So I don't know if they like have when you turn something off, if there's not like an automatic reactivation after a period of time because they want you to come back to the platform.
That could be, but it definitely had the unintended consequence, I'm sure, of me leaving as a user. I'm sure I wouldn't be the only one who was like, why do I need notifications for an app? I literally never open. I think once the other platforms started to add like stories and, reels and features like that, Snapchat struggled to be relevant. I don't know. I think if I was a teenager, I'd still be using it, but I'm not. So here we are. I'm glad to have one fewer social media platform in my life.
Yeah, I could believe that. I definitely think that social media has, to a large extent, at least from what I've seen, lost its appeal for a lot of people, and it is good. And it's, I mean, I was telling my mom about this. The only reason I still keep my Facebook account is, one, so someone doesn't steal it. But two, if I need to buy and sell something on a second-hand market, Facebook Marketplace works really well. And that's the only reason I really keep the app going. The Facebook Messenger helps because sometimes someone doesn't have your WhatsApp details or your phone number, but they can still get you on Facebook or LinkedIn. I do have occurrences of that every so often, but other than that, it's very much a reactive tool. The reactive things for me, I don't go there looking to see what's going on. Or even LinkedIn, I've stopped going on to. I find that's also become quite messy.
Yeah, I turn off all my notifications for all my social medias and have felt better for it. Definitely check it way less. LinkedIn, I probably check a few times a week to accept connection requests and that kind of thing. Or sometimes it's interesting to see what others post, but you're right. There's definitely a lot of just noise in the platform that makes it, I don't know, unenjoyable or less relevant to interact with because people are, finding ways to beat the algorithm. And there was like a joke going around for a long time that, and I think this is probably still true, that polls, LinkedIn likes to promote when you put a poll out. So it's like people would just use the poll feature just for the heck of getting engagement. So like your whole feed would be littered with LinkedIn polls.
I remember that went on for quite a while, actually.
Yeah, maybe they tweak the algorithm a little bit eventually.
Well, someone was saying to me that if you want to, and for a lot of people, and I'm one of them, the only reason I really keep going with LinkedIn mostly is for professional news or notification exercise. But even that's become noisy. So, and then the secondary reason is jobs. Either to hire people or to find something else. And what I found, or what I was listening to today, I think it was a Seth Godin episode, is people think that in order to, they always have to gamify their LinkedIn profile, so they have to contribute there every day, and they have to have a lot of connections and whatever it is to get jobs. And I don't know if that's entirely true. So I don't know if the algorithm actually works that way. I think what happens that a recruiter will buy a service from LinkedIn, use the LinkedIn data, which is going to be all your metadata, to filter their search criteria so they can reach out to you to recruit you. I think that's probably what happens more often than not. If you're not already using your contacts, your connections in a role. So for example, you see a job advertised by a company and you see that you have a friend ex-colleague works there, you use them, and I say use and to get into the recruiter's channel quicker by getting referred in, which usually bypasses an external recruiter and gets you in front of an internal recruiter, which is what most of these companies are incentivized to do, which is to use an internal recruiter to save costs.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say there is that it's almost like Facebook in this way, or other profiles, that there's like a minimum amount you need populated to appear like a real person. So it helps to have connections and a photo and, your relevant job experience and some bullet points. And I think whether or not you are creating content on LinkedIn and engaging with posts is probably the less relevant part, but just having like a filled out profile is going to help you get noticed by recruiters on LinkedIn if that's your goal.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I used to get a few of these reach outs every so often, but even now, there's so much noise because there's, and it's a lot of these outsourced development shops reaching out saying, "Oh, we can help you build your whatever, etc." thing, and you're just sort of saying, "Well, I don't have the energy to talk to every single one of you, so you just ignore them all because it's just noise."
There's a lot of selling and prospecting that happens on LinkedIn because, it's another channel to reach people who might not pick up the phone, right? Or like, I don't even have a corporate, well, I probably shouldn't say that in case anyone is listening and trying to prospect into me, but I don't have a corporate phone number right now. So if someone wants to reach me, they either have to, to try to sell me something, they have to find my email, probably using a site like ZoomInfo, or try to find me on social media. But I'm like you, my LinkedIn inbox is so noisy that it's like, how would you even, I don't know, how do you decide who to pay attention to, right? There's not enough differentiation there when it comes to the messages that come in.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I used to be very good about it. Now I'm not. And even with email now, I find even that I'm putting more and more on the back burner. I mean, someone sent me something on Teams now saying, "Oh, I sent you an email about this last week," and I replied to them saying, "Well, if you send me stuff on email, I can't guarantee I'm going to read it because I get so many every day." And I'm not saying there's thousands and millions, but just sitting down to read an email that's long frustrates me. I'd rather it was typed to me or put in a Word document, or even in Notion now. I'm asking guys to put things in a Notion page because I find I can read through it so much quicker and it's more structured. Whereas an email tends to be, I don't know, just feels like the wrong place to put it, especially if you're sharing knowledge. Emails are great if you say, "Oh, I need your help with this, please. Can we book in some time?" That's sort of a functional use for email. But sending the architecture of the solution as an email isn't helpful because now I've got to keep the email. I've got to move that email into a knowledge place.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. I think things get lost. Email search is notoriously bad. So then like managing that becomes a headache. And you're right, with shared cloud docs, it's like anything that you can put in a shared cloudy location so that it's referenceable later via link or however is preferable, I think, for actually referencing things. Especially when it's like, if someone sends me, a document that's no longer, that's an attachment, right? That isn't connected to the cloud. It's like, that is the bane of my existence, then trying to go find that again, versus if it was a Office Online link that I could just reference through, my OneDrive, my SharePoint, whatever.
Yeah, well, that's the point. It's all that come together in a way that it is not just efficient at the time, but also effective for the medium to long term. So if there's stuff that, like this example of this architecture for the system, that's something that's going to be referenceable for many people, not just to me. That should be on a shared place, and whether it's a Wikipedia application inside of Teams or whatever it is, rather send a link to it than send in an email, because an email, it's the same as your post. In fact, someone once said to me that he treats email the same way that he treats his post. It piles up to the point that it falls over, and then he starts going through it. So it's not meant to be an instant messaging or a quick reply mechanism. It's meant to be something that conveys, something functional. And I think it's overused for too many other things. It's kind of gets back to our episode ages ago around getting rid of email.
Yeah, I think, it has, how will always have its place. I think, I don't know if it's possible to rein in all of the communication channels, especially like the user generated ones now, but it's almost like we're in need of, and I think it varies from organization to organization, right? But you have to establish like some, or maybe it could even be team by team, but I think it helps if it's organization wide, right? Like establishing some rules of engagement for when you use Teams versus email versus calling. It's like the more shared expectations there are around those kind of things, more seamlessly you can communicate. But it's like, it goes back to things like how many hours in our days do we spend doing meetings, but how many people are practicing any sort of meeting etiquette in terms of, sending documents in advance or any of the things you can do to try to make a meeting more effective. It's like those little things kind of tend to get unequal treatment or lost, or people don't get really trained on them. So everyone's kind of making it up for themselves.
Yeah, I think I sent you an article on making Zoom meetings fun. And one of the things was to send meeting information in advance prior to the meeting. I personally think somebody just needs to avoid having the meeting. If you can share the information in a collaborative way, like on a channel in Teams or Slack or whatever your preference is. And then if you still can't get it sorted out, it's on over IM, then you have the meeting. But at least then everyone knows what they're talking about. There's a bit of context. But there was something also around when you have that meeting, the first 2 or 3 minutes, you've got to take into account that people have just come off probably another video call meeting. So whether it's Teams or Zoom or something else, and you've got to make it have like a relaxing start. So some sort of joke or talking about something non-work related, just to give everyone a chance to have a breather and then get into the content. And then also finish on something like that. So when you finish the call, the last minute or so, also make it a relaxing end, so people leave the meeting positive.
Yeah, and I would say from personal experience that I know the people who are going to crack jokes or bring up something random or kind of bring that levity to any interaction, any situation. And it's always a pleasure to work with those people because you kind of know that, it's going to have that more relaxed atmosphere, that there's, I don't know, it just feels comfortable to have those kind of interactions, but it's easier said than done. There's like a fine line, right? You don't want to spend 10 minutes like cracking jokes at the top of a meeting.
If it's a tough meeting, you don't want to go into that making jokes, but maybe that's the right thing to do. It depends on the tone. But I'm talking about this sort of, we have daily meetings and we have weekly team meeting. Those are ones where we're speaking all the time. So you need to maybe make it a little bit less than the drag that it can sometimes feel like it's going to be. But those meetings also serve a purpose, and they're also quite short. 15 minutes maximum. The one is 45 minutes. That's the max. The rest are short, 15 minutes. Sometimes they're done in 10. So there's not a lot of time there to make jokes. But often, if I come in and usually I'm on time or just there a minute or two late, the guys are talking about something. Let them finish talking about it. It could be how was the weekend. It could be something that they're watching or a topic that they're interested in. And we might talk about that for 5 minutes. And then you have the rest of the meeting, which is quite quick because, typically we are meeting regularly. But I can see it in the mood that people are a lot more engaged. And because the teams are remote, you need a way to let them get to know each other. And Mary, who joined us recently, she started a thing on a Friday, which is calling Tea Coffee Time. And that's just half an hour in the diary where they just talk about random topics. from what was your favorite cartoon as a kid to, I can't remember what last week's one was, but they just talk about it for an hour, share some pictures and stuff. It just becomes, a way of getting to know each other.
Yeah. When I talked to Ben the other week, he mentioned that Microsoft does a similar thing where they encourage people to have time on their calendars where that's explicitly not for work. It's just to have those social interactions. So I think there's something to that in a remote environment.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I've noticed it makes a big difference, and I've even though I'm now in the same country as some of my staff. I've gone into the office now twice, and there's been no one there. You've got to embrace these other ways, because I would say anecdotally, based on that kind of, there's no one in the office. There's a majority that don't want to go back into a daily grind of going to an office. They're quite happy to work remotely. So you need to find ways to connect with them.
Absolutely.
And to find time to do brain work. I'm finding still that what I'm missing from my South Africa days is I had an extra 2 hours every morning to do brain work, and I don't have that anymore. And I've noticed that that's affecting my strategic thinking. So I'm going to start getting up earlier once my kids start sleeping through again.
Still adjusting to the time zone?
I think my daughter's going through a growth spurt, so she's not sleeping through. So she's been waking up at about 3 a.m. The last few days, and then when she wakes up, she wakes my son up. And we've just put him into a single bed, so I can't sleep in the same bed as him, but he wants me to lie with him, so I sleep on the floor. And needless to say, I'm exhausted by the time the day comes through. Once that stuff settles down, which it will settle down, I can see myself getting up really early, doing that thinking time, and then starting the day.
Yeah. Gotta make it work. That sounds a little, I don't know, that doesn't sound fun to me. So waking up super early just to have, it's the uninterrupted time sounds nice. The having to wake up super early to do that sounds painful, but that's just me.
Well, so the reality is, if you want to go to bed, if you want to wake up early, go to bed early. And by the end of the day, anyway, where it's tough now in the UK, and I think you guys did in the US as well, is the days are longer. So the sun went down at 8:30 last night, which really messes you up, because then you think, without checking the time, you think you've still got the evening to come, and you haven't realised that you're already past the evening. And it's time for bed anyway. So 8:30, we're sort of targeting to go to bed by 9:30 usually. That's kind of drifting out to the 10:30. So we've got to bring that back. And then getting up at 5, 6 in the morning is actually quite easy, because if you've gone to bed early and you get your 7 hours of sleep, you're waking up 5, 6 in the morning anyway. So it's very doable. We just got to make that change.
Yeah. I think, that consistent bedtime wake up is super important. I've personally tried a lot of sleep diary, sleep tracking kind of things in the past to try to fix my own, rhythms there. And I think I just have a late circadian rhythm, because even going to bed early, I could still, without an alarm, easily sleep into almost the afternoon. So it's just a struggle of being a night owl in a corporate job.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge. Is this is I was with my wife, but she started her job last week, and we're doing. I was covering for her last week while she was on training and all the rest of it, so we alternate quite a lot. And she was saying on the drive home today from the gym that she's got this meeting, and people mustn't moan that she's not on from 9 o'clock. And I said, no, that's not how it works anymore. If you're in the results-oriented world, no one cares really if you're online at 9 o'clock every day on time. What they care about is what you're putting out. Now, if someone were to put a meeting in your diary while you're at the gym for 9 o'clock and you don't see it, but you've put in your diary that you're at gym, that's their fault. That's not your fault. And you shouldn't feel any anxiety for being there because it wasn't in your plan. But in the same token, you can't spend your entire day, out doing all your home stuff and then not work that day at all, and then not expect to be called out on it, if you know what I mean. The results always need work. You need to be working a little bit every day to reach those results, but how you get there and the times you're available, generally speaking, are up to you. If that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but I kind of ruffled around a little bit.
No, it makes sense. I think, the integrated working piece is something that is becoming more normal, or that flexibility is like having some of that is expected. Like I try to go for a midday walk now because that's something that I missed from my past commutes, is I was always walking into the office and, I walked to commute. So I miss that activity. So I've been doing it midday now, which I sometimes feel guilty about, but I try not to. One, it's not like I'm walking for hours. It's not, excessive in that way. And then two, I work earlier than I would have if I was commuting in. So I could either, walk in the morning and start work later, or I could start work earlier and walk in the afternoon, which is what I prefer to do. So, but yeah, I think you have to, as long as you're, blocking things off and being clear with people. And I think, the last minute meeting on your calendar without communication should be a rare thing anyway. So I think it's more normal now.
Yeah, exactly. That's about it, I think, for me.
Yeah, no, I think
I sent you a few things to have a listen to and read through. I mean, the one that I sent you, which we can talk about next time, is I don't know why Siri thought that I need the weather right now. Is a VR AR episode from the Restless. I think it's called the Restless podcast that I listened to, which I really enjoyed. What's it called? The Restless Ones. Seeing and sensing the world at your fingertips.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, let's do that one next time.
Cool.
Great. Well, yeah, I think we're at time anyway, so it was good catching up.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Heather. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye, Ryan.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Heather Bicknell is our producer and editor. Thank you, Heather, for your hard work on this episode. Please subscribe to the series and rate us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter @the DWW Podcast. The show notes and transcripts will be available on the website www.digitalworkspace.works. Please also visit our website www.digitalworkspace.works and subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, if you found this episode useful, please share with your friends or colleagues.